Hello, my name is Kiriath, and we have a bit more information on that there Speed Freaks box. And to be honest, it looks like you, the lucky Ork players, are actually getting new shit. Like, you genuinely are getting new stuff, which is awesome, and I'm happy for you. And hopefully these do turn out to be, well, new stuff for you, because I don't recognise these sprues, right? So, actually, before we get into this, just very quickly. This feels like a Games Workshop inside job. I'm just going to say it. If you're the person who's taking these pictures and you don't work for Games Workshop, I apologise for being so cynical. But the level of perfect that this particular leak has operated on is too good. It's too smooth. It's too precise for my liking. So we had the pictures of the box. We had the thing that said Speed Freaks, and then some artwork of Ork Vehicles, and then of course we had two boxes, one on top of the other, and you could see it said Warhammer 40,000 Speed Freak, and that was small, terrible pictures as they always are. It blew up. Obviously, people are like, "Oh my god, look at this Speed Freaks! Is this Gorkamorka? Is this new model for Orks? This is amazing!" And coincidentally, a matter of, well, not even 24 hours later, someone has managed to take a picture inside the box. Fancy that. And inside the box there is a picture of sprues. Now, as is tradition with these things, this picture was taken by a very unfortunate soul who seems to be suffering from Parkinson's. Their camera was made in 1987 and they still haven't been able to replace it, and they also seem to be having withdrawal symptoms from either crack or alcohol at the same time. So my condolences to you. I hope you get better soon. Thank you very much for the blurry, out of focus, grainy picture. I'm pretty sure that's the rules, isn't it? That's the rules at this point. You have to have any one of those three problems to be able to take pictures of leaked stuff of Games Workshop products. It's always exactly the same, and it always makes me laugh. We're in an age where you can open your camera and accidentally take a high-res, perfectly clear, wonderfully coloured picture of your own face, and yet when it comes to taking photos of Games Workshop stuff that isn't out yet, or officially announced yet, it seems to have been taken at least 20 years ago from inside someone's coat whilst they're having some sort of seizure. But yeah, so we can see from this, just about, that there is indeed some new shit in here, and the wheels, especially from what you can make out of the wheels, I will admit that it is difficult to make out any detail. It is blurry as hell, but we've got a red sprue, we've got a yellow sprue, well, we've got multiple sprues. It looks like a couple of red, couple of yellow, and there are wheels on there that seem to match a picture that was on the Rumour engine I don't know how long ago. I have tried to look. All I can find is the picture referenced in that Rumour engine, not the article itself. I think it was quite a while ago, but when it appeared, it was like, oh, is that some sort of Ork thing? I think that's what this is. It looks about right. I don't recognise what's on those sprues, but I will say that although it's a little bit tricky to tell, I'm working on some assumptions for this, okay? I'll say that right now. I'm working on some serious assumptions. If we assume that the box is about the same size as Forgebane, Dark Imperium, the upcoming Tooth and Claw, if we assume that the box is about the same size as those, which I think is a reasonable assumption, they look to be the right scale. They look to be the right scale to be usable in Warhammer 40k, so that's a good start. There's also a picture of some bases in there as well, and there's dice in there, so you can kind of get an idea as to how big the bases are. So looking at that and judging from that, it looks like they are 40k scale. They're not a smaller scale or a larger scale, which is promising for a start. People have been getting a bit excited as well because there's a thing that's a sample chapter, The Beast. I've seen a few people say, "Oh, does this herald the return of Ghazghkull?" This is about no. That to me, that is not a hint or a teaser. I think that is literally just a sample chapter from the book The Beast Arises. I can't really tell which of the series it is. You could probably have a look on Black Library and sort it out, but I am 99.9% sure that is what that is. It's just like a free Black Library sample. They've done that before. I think Forgebane had a thing in it where you got like a collection of short stories or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's not something that Games Workshop haven't done before. It's it might be something they're going to do more often, but yeah, that looks to be part of that series, just a sample chapter of it. So, judging by the bases, it's kind of tricky to tell because it's not a massive picture, obviously, but there are 2 decently sized bases, and I think it's either 2 decently sized bases or 4 decently sized bases. I'm angling towards 2, to be honest. There's obviously a pack of like a map in there as well, not a map, like a game board that you can see in there too. I can see, you can see 3 smaller bases. I would assume that those are not just the only 3. I would guess at minimum there's 4 of those. That would make sense because then it'd be 1 large base for each side and 2 smaller bases for each side. In terms of what fits on those bases, it's a little tricky to tell from the actual pictures of the sprues because, like I say, they are blurry as anything. But there is probably in that lot probably a reasonably sized vehicle and a couple of smaller vehicles, I would assume, on each sprue. Again, a lot of this is assumption and guesswork. All I'm doing is thinking out loud. I could be totally wrong, but it would make, to me anyway, it would make sense based on what we're seeing. I'm pretty sure I can see a fairly big gun on one of those sprues as well, which is kind of interesting. I have also had a bit of information from someone who, obviously, they don't want their name put out, that's just fine. I've seen a couple of people, when I've mentioned this in the past, say things like, oh, why don't you want to mention their name? Well, because they're providing me with information that if it's known that they gave that information out, they're not going to get any more. They're not going to be trusted with anything else. So if someone says, I know this, you can talk about it but don't mention it, like don't mention my name, I'm not going to mention their name because I'm not going to drop some poor sod in it just for trying to do something with the community. I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. Why would you even do it? But they've messaged me over Twitter talking about they'd originally talked about confirming the ridiculous amount of deep striking and teleporting for orcs early on in the game, and they're going to be a bit of a powerhouse early on in the game. They've also mentioned multiple new vehicles. So from what they've said, like dragsters and booster blasters and like different kind of tracks and trucks and stuff, it kind of fits with what we're seeing on the images, to be honest. The kind of the little list they've sent me, I can see what they've said could easily be built out of what's on these sprues. So yeah, I said I was getting excited against my better judgment. I said I was getting hopeful against my better judgment. I would say that also this is heading to, I was going to say this is actually heading to China, not Japan. But there seems to be a little bit of disagreement on that point because I've seen a few people go, no, that's clearly Japanese, it's not Chinese that's written on that box. But there's also a few people who've said it's both. I'll be perfectly blunt, I can barely read fucking English, so I don't know which of those languages it is. But it is headed in that general direction, if you want to put it like that. Even if this is a box game that only heads there, which I think is a little bit unlikely, I really would think that it would go elsewhere as well. It's not like a sort of Gorka Morka style Ork Vehicular combat game would not be popular in other parts of the world. Making it exclusive to those regions seems a little bit weird. At the very least, looking at the sprues, they're obviously not old models. Like this is new shit that's in there. And so at the very least I would expect them to be released alongside an Ork Codex, which again multiple people have said at this point that is going to be an October thing, that we will actually genuinely have Orktober, which is kind of cool. So to be honest, it's kind of promising. It is genuinely kind of promising. I was trying to remain cynical and skeptical because that is the best way to approach all leaks, just in case, basically. It obviously existed, there's no doubt about that, but seeing the images of the inside of the box, blurry though they are, having things like those bases and having dice next to them to give a sort of, not a great idea, but a small idea of scale at the very least, it kind of looks like we actually have here new Ork models. genuinely new Ork vehicles. Just finally. Like, I don't even play Orks. This is the thing. I don't play Orks. I don't collect Orks. I had an Ork army way back in the day, but I have not had an Ork army for so long. I'm still excited about this because I'm, I looking at the Games Workshop site and stuff, I'm seeing models that I bought when I was a kid still up for sale, and they look old and they look knackered and they look garbage. This is genuinely promising. This is nice. This is good. There was also a little quip from the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page where someone messaged them publicly and was like, hey, what the fuck is this? What is this? Do you want to explain this? And they did like a cheeky little thing where they said, everyone knows we don't produce new Xenos models, which to me means, oh yeah, that's a real thing and it's totally on its way really soon. Again, could be reading a bit too much into that, but it seemed too sarcastic and not a real reply. Clearly taking the piss, basically, aren't they? But yeah, that is what we know so far about the contents of this Speed Freaks box. It looks like Orks have new models. It looks like they have new vehicles. They have their own actual game. And I would hope that these things are going to be in the Codex as well. It would make no sense for them not to be, and it lines up with what people have sent me over Twitter and a few other places, telling me about what they know of the upcoming Ork release, which, I've passed on as much as I can without giving full on like information on people. It looks good. It actually looks promising. I'm genuinely happy. I really hope that this turns out to be legit, that we are going to see a proper overhaul for that side of the Ork range. I don't see why we wouldn't at this point. I mean, look at this stuff. I really don't see why we wouldn't. I'm a little bit excited. I shouldn't be. I can't start another army. I'm working on my Emperor's Children. I cannot be having this. But still, I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy, and I hope to see better pictures of these soon. I'm pretty sure as soon as this video goes live, an article will go up on the Warhammer Community site with better pictures of all of this shit. That's what usually happens. But until then, all we have is a blurry photo and some hopes and dreams. That'll do for the moment, right? So what do you reckon? Do you think we're going to see all this stuff come to 40k? I don't see why we wouldn't. Are you hoping that it doesn't just go elsewhere, that we have it in the UK and the US, just in the West in general? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click any of the things you see in front of you, Patreon, subscribe video, all of that shit. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one, which will probably be another fucking video on this with better pictures, so look out for that. I'll see you later. Toodaloo.